Hey Ratul, welcome back.
Thank you.
We were talking about MCP some more. Last time we talked about what MCP is at a high level. We talked about NetSuite. We talked about some of the limitations of NetSuite and high level. Now we're going to get really deep into MCP, and in a few minutes we'll be walking through some examples that you and I have worked on as part of that MCP challenge we did here at Crow. We actually kind of won that MCP challenge. But before we get there, I want you to talk a little bit technical terms about what MCP is, how does it define, what can we tell in simpler terms to our audience, how does it connect to NetSuite, how is security and roles managed with MCP, how do you govern that automation? So tell us a couple of minutes about all that stuff, and then we'll get into some demos.
Okay. Yeah. So before I talk about MCP, so with NetSuite, it does have a capability of connecting to a LLM as well.
Mm-hmm.
So NetSuite introduced AND/LLM module also.
Mm-hmm.
So it was way before the MCP,
Mm-hmm.
right? So where so you can use the LLM within NetSuite only.
Okay.
So let's say we have a source script file that can directly connect to the LLM. Okay. So with that, let's say there is some capability where you can write some automation, right? So let's say, as an example, for the text enhance that NetSuite does have, we can do it using the source script also using the AND/LLM.
Okay.
So that is something that NetSuite introduced long back before the MCP, right?
And then you have to build something within NetSuite. You're not connecting an external LLM, you're building something, or are you connecting to an external LLM?
No, there is no external LLM.
Okay.
This is all within the
Within
OCI,
NetSuite.
right? Or
Okay.
like Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Okay.
So it did have different models also before. So there are some models coming from the Meta also, right? So but as of now, NetSuite does have a single model, which is Cohere model.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But that required some more scripting. I mean, it was more complex. For
it was
somebody like
complex.
me that's not a developer,
Yeah.
I couldn't just go in NetSuite and do something. Right? Like
Yes.
I needed to work with somebody like
it
you.
needs a
right?
developer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like it caught on. It wasn't that popular.
Yes, it was.
But it was the beginning. It was the start.
It was beginning and start, and we
Yeah.
did have some of the use cases using that also.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember.
So with that, yes, it did have some limitation, right? So you couldn't go to that level where you are generating a report out of it, right? So that is something, right? But here comes the MCP. Okay. So MCP. So if you talk about the technicality, so MCP is something that Anthropic. They introduced this as a standard. It's an open source.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a system or like a standard for connecting the AI system to the data.
Okay.
So obviously, it's like AI is always good as the data, right?
Right, yeah.
So it needs to have the data. If you don't have any data, you can do anything, right? So that's where the MCP is. So it's a bridge between the system and then the AI tools,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So that's MCP. So we call it like model context protocol. So that's where NetSuite introduced. That's where Anthropic introduced that, and then
I didn't know that. So they created MCP.
yeah, they
standard.
created MCP just for connecting the system with their AI tools.
Okay.
So that is very recent, which is 2024 only. Right.
Okay.
So in 2025, NetSuite did introduce this MCP connector, right? So and then it did come with only Claude, as you know,
Yeah.
and then after Claude only, it released for the ChatGPT also, and then they are planning for the other AI tools as well, right? So if we talk about let's say the roles, right? So yes, so many users have queries about like whether their data is leaking to the AI models or not, whether their data is being used by the AI models or not, like are their data is secure or not, right? So those are the things that we hear most of the times, right?
Yeah.
So with MCP within NetSuite, it's always based on the role, right?
Of the user.
Of the user, right?
Okay.
So you connect from AI tools using a particular role that you have assigned in NetSuite, right? So that all of your data that is coming from NetSuite is secure through that particular role, right?
So it's like in the past, there's like single sign-on only roles. There's all the security that NetSuite produces or has introduced in the past a role. So if I have a standard role today, can I just convert it to an MCP role, or have to create a new role?
So you can obviously convert that to a
It's a new setting, it's a new
role.
permission.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but it does need a new set of permissions.
You need a new set of permissions. So,
Yeah.
okay. And that is critical, right? Because
Yes.
as an organization, I'll want, if I have somebody in purchasing, only accessing purchasing transactions, if I'm going to give them MCP access, I want them to only access the same information they would access through the UI, right?
Yeah.
That's critical.
Yeah. And then one more thing here is that yes, NetSuite does not provide the admin access to have this MCP connection.
Okay.
Right?
So you can't just be a superpower, you
Yeah,
use it,
yeah.
and then wipe all the data and
Yes,
extract.
yes.
So you have, it's limited to non-admin roles.
Yes,
That's
correct.
very important. That's
Yep.
very important.
Yep. So with that, so I would have you to talk about the practical applications.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. One more thing before we go there. What do you know? How does NetSuite control besides the role? So once the data is back in the LLM, how do organizations control that the data doesn't go back to the LLM and train it, right? And expose all that data?
Yeah, so it depends on the AI tools that you're using, right? So in this case, let's say if you're using a enterprise version or pro version of ChatGPT, or let's say Claude, right? So it depends that how you are using your AI tools,
Yeah.
right? So with some of the license, they already have this in their security control, that they are not using the data to like train their models,
Yeah.
right? So it's a very important for the users to know as well,
Yeah.
right?
And that's the distinction, right? So last week I was in Dubai doing a roundtable for some of our clients there, and the first question they asked is how does NetSuite or Oracle control that the information doesn't go out there? And the answer is it's not Oracle's control. Once it goes back to them, it's the organization's control. And for example, at Crow, we have an enterprise agreement with OpenAI and Anthropic, but our data doesn't go back to AI, OpenAI or Anthropic and train it. It's private. Obviously, that's a type of relationship that we have. The other thing is that, also to be clear, is that we don't connect to our clients, and that's a Crow corporate policy. We don't connect our OpenAI to our clients. Oracle, technically we could, but organizationally we're prohibited from doing that. So whenever we work with our clients, we need them to have Claude or to have OpenAI, which are the two that currently have MCPs. I don't know that I've heard anything about Gemini or Grok, but I'm sure they're coming.
Yep.
But also NetSuite is doing NetSuite Next, so we'll see. This is changing every second, right?
Right.
All right, so like you mentioned, I'm going to go and talk about some practical examples for different roles. It works for everything. I know that there are some standard tools, and we won't get into those details. If you're a NetSuite user, you go to suiteanswers.com, and you'll find everything to install it, right? If I could install it, anybody could install it. But there's two types: standard tools and custom tools, right?
Yeah.
Claude is a little bit more powerful because it was the first one.
Yep.
I think MCP for OpenAI took a while because OpenAI was not adopting MCP because they wanted to be a little bit different. Eventually, they were kind of forced to by market forces. So we'll start with OpenAI because that's what we tried first, because we had OpenAI when MCP first came out for OpenAI. We didn't have it for Claude when it first came out for Claude. We had to catch up. So I'll talk about examples that are practical for inventory, supply chain, accounting. So there's 4 examples. We've done others. So please reach out to us if you listen to this, if you're interested. We have 15-30 examples of prompts that we've created. So awesome. I'm not going to get into the details, but we'll walk through the examples. I know that you helped me build a couple of these. So first another thing is that, and I'll let you talk about this when I run it later, but this is not immediate, right?
Yeah.
So what do you know about that? Because you've been at the forefront here at Crow using MCP. Is safe searches, you get the answers in seconds.
Yeah.
MCP, what's your experience with MCP as far as the immediacy of data with being automatic, right?
Yeah. So with that, I would talk about the custom tools that we have as of now. So we already know that NetSuite does have the standard tools, right? Yeah. So with the standard tools, what it has is like it does have a set of tools that already built by NetSuite, and then we can use it, right? But those are doing some basic things only. So let's say you just run a particular query and then get the data out of it, right? But here with the MCP, NetSuite does provide as a like a strong, let's say like a tool, which is like custom tool we call it, right? So you can build some script for your use case, right? So with that, so let's say you have a particular use case, so you can customize that solution within the NetSuite, and then you can get the data out of it, right? So with that, yes, it behaves differently than how you're using the standard tools.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the speed and all, yes, it differs from how you're using, whether you are using standard tool or whether your tool is using a custom tool.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna get into the examples, and we'll start sharing my screen, and you guys can see some of the things real live. So first things with OpenAI, we had to use developer mode. It's not the same thing with Claude, right? That's an
Right.
OpenAI restriction.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a Claude restriction. You have to turn developer mode. So if you're looking at my screen, you'll see that I turn on developer mode, and it's just something that OpenAI has made as part of creating an
Yes.
application.
Yes.
And then you have, then you have your prompts. Once you turn that on, then you have to select which account you want to use. So in this case, I haven't configured the account here, so you'll see it in the real example. But you have to select the account. So you can have multiple accounts connected to NetSuite.
Correct.
Multiple NetSuite accounts connected to each LLM, right?
Yep.
There's
Yep.
no restriction. You have to tell it which one to use.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So in the first example, here you'll see my prompt. As always, Ratul, you mentioned garbage in, or you mentioned the importance of data, right?
Yeah.
So last week we were at the round table, and Kaylin Maguire, my colleague, shout out to Kaylin, she said, garbage in, poison out, right?
Okay.
You've heard of garbage in, garbage out? Yeah.
Yeah.
So she mentioned, how with AI it's really garbage in, poison out, because companies are trying to make decisions out of data. If the data is bad, you're going to make a bad decision. If you make a bad decision, you can run out of business, right? So
Yeah.
that was a very interesting thing. But in your experience, as I run through this example, and I guess I run through the example first. We have a lot of customers in manufacturing. So one of the examples that we built together here was a way of getting the BOM data that you need to have in order to build an assembly. In NetSuite, there's reports for that.
Yeah.
But you have to do it one at a time.
Yes.
Right? Or certain reports that are not as friendly.
Yes.
In this specific example, we're asking for a specific bill of materials. Show me everything that I have for each component and what is the limiting factor for building, right? So if we scroll through here, you'll see that what it shows me that I have 4 components, but I have one component that is the one that has least inventory. That's going to be my bottleneck. And then it tells me what components have shortages. So it's not only giving me the data, it's actually explaining it to me, right?
Right.
So tell me about prompt engineering.
Yeah.
And how important are prompts when you're trying to access data in NetSuite?
Yeah, so prompt engineering is definitely a very good factor, right? So yes, you need it in the sense, let's say, if you have a bad prompt, then yes, your data may be good, but based on the prompt, your AI agents is not, or the AI tool is not responding good, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the prompts are important. And the good thing about MCP, you'll see here, is that I asked a prompt. It gave me some answers, some explanations. And then I say, well, this is all good, but build me a table.
Yeah.
Right? So now you keep conversing with the AI tool. And it's going back to NetSuite and it's pulling more information, right? And it interprets it for me. It gives me more quantities. And in this one, this is something that you built with Austin Faust.
Yep.
That's one of the MCP
Right.
challenge.
Yeah.
The last thing we asked it to do was create a purchase order, right?
Yes.
So it tells me what I need. I analyze it. I don't have to get into NetSuite. And now I know what I need to buy. And I would normally have to go back to NetSuite and build a purchase order or use the min-max functions. And NetSuite has ways of automating that, so it's not tool manual. But in this case, we're creating a purchase order. So is creating a transaction a custom tool or a standard tool?
So NetSuite does have both. So it does have a standard tool, for creating records, which are like standard transactions. However, it does not have the capability to, let's say, do some of the advanced options, right?
Okay.
Right. But with the custom tools, you can customize it to have some of the like advanced options within that particular record.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So you'll see on the screen, it creates it, and then I said, hey, again, like I'm talking to a person, right? I noticed that one of the things it is, because we have to remember, this is not programming, right? So I told him to give him the purchase order, and I noticed that the number didn't look like a purchase order, and I went back to NetSuite, so I was testing this, and it was the internal ID.
Okay.
It didn't give me, and this is a standard tool, so I have to say, hey, you didn't give me the internal the purchase order number, you gave me the internal ID. And he came back and said, hey, you're right. Thank you for catching that. So it's like talking to a person, right?
Yes.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But talking to a person, and at the end, it gives me some notes. So I think the cool thing of this example is that it's not just giving me facts, it's giving me facts, helping me interpret them. And this prompt, admittedly, is pretty basic.
Yep.
You can ask it to explain steps along the way, right? When you're doing anything with AI.
Yeah, and then one more thing I would like to point out here is that, so with the custom tools or standard tools that we have, we do have some capability where you can ask for a preview. So let's say you're trying to like create a purchase order, right? But you're not ready yet, right? So you need to see the data, what it is being used to create that particular purchase order, right? So you do have that option where you can either click confirm or like deny it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a good one, because you don't have to like explicitly like tell the, let's say, the AI agents to create the orders or like purchase order directly, right? So you have that control on your side, like whether you create it or you deny it.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So the second example, is also on ChatGPT, is about inventory management. And like you mentioned before, so I put the prompt, analyze inventory for a specific location, show me items that have open sales orders, items that have zero quantity, and show calculate the carrying cost. Obviously, I need to tell you some data if I wanted to calculate the carrying cost. But you can see here, it took about 2-3 minutes, right? So it's not that it's not real time, because the data is real time, but it's not immediate, right? It takes a while because it actually is going back and is there a way to accelerate that? From what we see, I know it's early, but is there a way to make it faster?
So yes, we do have that capability. So we can, let's say, customize some of the suite QL to fasten that particular query. Yeah.
So what is suite QL? Suite QL.
Yeah. So it's just a like query language that
Okay.
NetSuite does have. Okay.
Okay.
So within NetSuite, you can run the SQL. And then it gives you the, let's say, the results, right? So it's just the
Is it faster than by previous? So to make it faster?
Yes,
on
it
NetSuite?
does. So right now, so when NetSuite introduced MCP, it did not have the capability for running the safe search, right?
Oh, okay.
However, it did have that query language, right?
Okay.
So with that query, yes, it is faster than the safe search, I'd say. And then you do have some, like, let's say, to go to the like multi joins, basically we call it, right?
With safe searches scan, which
Yeah.
is another pain with
Yeah.
safe searches. You can only
Yes.
do one
Yeah.
degree of difference,
Yep.
right? Okay. So this example, doesn't have a lot of cool graphs, but really what it tells me is, it gives me my answer, which in NetSuite it will take multiple safe searches, or in the past we would have built a suitelet
Yeah.
to join multiple safe searches, or
Yeah.
done suite QL.
Yep.
And this one it does it on natural language, and it gives you recommendations, right? It's telling me what to liquidate, what to switch, etc. So
Yep.
very cool stuff. But what's really, really exciting is doing this in Claude. So I'll jump to Claude. And again, you have an example here with Claude where I'm connecting it to a specific account. I already told it to use the account, and I'm going to run it. It's going to take a while. So because it takes a while, I want to show the example. And because Claude was the first one, I think Claude has more capabilities than OpenAI.
Yes.
Not only they created MCP, but also NetSuite, because of that, partnered with them first. So in this example, I'm asking it to create a month-end checklist.
Yep.
A lot of our clients, where we're implementing, NetSuite has a checklist, but it's very standard, very basic, and they do their checklist in Excel, right?
Yeah.
Some clients will have Flowcast or will have, Blackline and one of those systems, but just a lot of those can't because it's expensive, right? So the cool thing with OpenAI is that it's building the checklist, and it's it's a checklist in not OpenAI, sorry, Claude.
Yeah.
Is building the checklist, and then I told it, well, it's cool, but put it in Excel.
Yeah.
I want to build it, which I think Claude is stronger than OpenAI when it comes to working with Excel.
Yeah.
And it puts it in Excel, and I think you've seen this before. I'll turn it over so you can see it. But it creates an Excel spreadsheet. With all the tabs of everything that I need to do, so I can tab.
Yeah.
Basic, very cool stuff. So I can now export it.
Yes.
And I can do it, right?
Yeah.
How complicated would it be to build something like this within Excel, within NetSuite, or integrate an Excel spreadsheet to?
So I would say it's a days of work, I would say, right? So you wouldn't get to create an Excel with multiple tabs and then having multiple source of the data, right?
Yeah,
so it's very complicated, and then yes, we are seeing how it is generating with the blink of an eye, let's say, right?
It's very cool stuff. I was impressed when I saw it. Finally, I think you've done things about forecasting and predictability of invoices. We run one to do a 90-day cash flow report, and NetSuite has cash flow functionality, but it's also programmatic, and it's not super complete.
Yep.
So we built this one that do a 90-day cash forecast and include certain things we told the one to include. And then I said, well, create a graph. And this is where I was blown away. It created a graph, and I think I showed you this graph before.
Okay.
But it's pretty. When I showed this last week, clients were impressed.
Okay.
It's very beautiful, and that's where Claude, I think, gets a lot of more recognition than OpenAI.
Yep.
But imagine this would have taken an analyst hours to do it, and you can do this in seconds every day, and it's real-time information, right?
Yeah.
So these are just some examples of what we've done. I know that you led an MCP challenge here at Crow. I know we have, I think, a couple of minutes to go. Tell me a little bit about that MCP challenge that we led here.
Yeah, so it came with a very surprising that we're new to this, right? So, and then MCP was introduced just 15 days back, right? And then you came to me that let's say whether we can do this or not, and then I said, oh, let's do it, right? So we tried for, let's say, 2 to 3 days probably, right? And then we come up with video. We had Gaurav helping me with all that, right? And then so it was great, and then very challenging, and then at the same time we learned a lot, and then we opened up for the future, I would say.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we were one of the first ones out there, and like I said, I think it was a week or two after the OpenAI MCP was published, and we just ran with it, and I got our team to do it. So we had 10 to 15 people in our team building challenges and getting creative, and now we use this in every demo. We show this in every demo, even though it kind of takes away work from us in a way, but the good thing is that it gives more information to our clients, which is what matters, right?
Yep.
All right, I think we're coming to the end of this episode. So we'll have a next episode in a couple of days, but I think we're gonna discuss is real world implementation considerations.
Yep.
Some mistakes that are being made, and how to prepare. We strongly believe that the future intelligent ERP is based on good data, right?
Yes.
So how do customers prepare? So we'll talk about that next time. So see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.